And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. But everyone had a great weekend today, joined here by Erica and Josh. We have a great show ahead for you guys. We're looking international, which bothers Josh as a very American man. And that sounds extra terrible considering there's a massacre of Christians that occurred over the weekend.
Well, look, I mean, and you
ahead.
said I had a great weekend, but it was an hour shorter than it should have been.
Preach.
I mean, this whole daylight savings time garbage. We got people, we got to stop calling it daylight savings. You ain't saving any daylight. The sun is going to give us the same amount of light no matter what we do to our clocks. So we got to stop calling it daylight savings. It is a clock shift. We just all decided to wake up an hour earlier, whether we wanted to or not, by the way. We left standard time. We're now on irregular time. This is stupid. We should return to tradition. You know, the middle of the day should be noon, not 11 a.m.
Josh, I have a scalding take for you here. I don't care. Am I the only person to not care about the daylight savings time?
I care.
I think it's stupid.
Ask your wonderful wife, who has now 2 children at home, who don't recognize we're just going to switch it because of Ben Franklin and Woodrow Wilson and all this da-da-da-da-da.
You know what it is? Guess what? I get to golf a little bit later in the summer. How great is that?
Okay, everyone likes
you can still do this. You can still do this
a little bit later. It doesn't matter to me. None of this matters to me.
So then don't change the clocks.
Right, but it is what it is at this point. Like, to me, what's going on in Syria, a million times more interesting than this stupid daylight savings.
Here's my take on this. All the stuff most of the stuff from the progressive era was hot garbage, and we should get rid of it. The direct election of senators, no thank you. Income tax, no thank you. Changing the clocks twice a year, no thank you. Yeah,
I would think angry populist Tom would really have a bone to pick with this because of where it came from.
Prohibition.
This is a post-World War I power grab on the part of the federal government under the progressives of Wilson ilk. Like, come on, angry progressive Tom, populist Tom, not progressive Tom. Maybe
government telling you twice a year to change your clocks, and you're just going to roll with it. I mean,
I don't know what this is.
You've gone soft, Tom.
The next thing is to be like, vaccine schedule's fine with me.
No, I just think it's
government. Tell me what time it should be, whatever you want. You know,
there he goes.
The ancients would say the noon is at the top of the sky. That's it's what we call noon. But no, we're not going to. Government says it's not. So, Tom's going to roll with it. Okay,
all
sure.
Right, cool.
I just think that at
not
this
the man
point,
I thought you were.
This debate is so played out and annoying that I'm almost like, do whatever you want. I don't care. It can't get me out of bed anymore. No pun intended.
I got to say, though, this is where social media made a difference, because we actually adjusted daylight. Last time there was an adjustment to this daylight clock scheme was in 2005, where they moved it up earlier. So it made it that we changed it in March and in November instead of like April and October or whatever. But there was no real national debate on it because there was no Facebook and Twitter in the way that we have it today. But now everyone has an ability to share like whatever opinion they want to. So they give all their hot takes on whether it should be called pop or soda and all that kind of stuff, which is mostly fun. But now you have the opportunity to say, as I have through social media, saying, isn't this really stupid that we change our clocks twice a year? And it's not for the farmers. Oh, but I like having more sunlight in the evening. Dude, fine. Sleep in, bro. Change your work schedule. Do whatever. Stop messing with the clock.
I don't have issues with your perspective on this. I just think the debate at this point is annoying. Like, do something or don't do something. But how much longer can we
do something? I have done something. I educate the public. I've contacted lawmakers and legislators in my own state. I've even reached across the aisle on this. A guy from Ann Arbor who's way crazy. I'm like, dude, I will help you get this done.
Is your version of reaching across the aisle? That's awesome.
Well, he's a state rep guy from Ann Arbor. I think we agree on like 1% of issues, but on this we do.
You got to find where you agree.
All right. But before I'd like to get into this, because
lock the clock, baby.
Okay. Glad we got that out of the way. We got Josh's domestic policy out of the way. So listen, I was having a wonderful weekend, and something that really, I think maybe this was a Friday dump or something not a dump. We had a legitimate massacre occur in Syria over the weekend. One thing that really stuck out to me was the lack of broad coverage I think it received, especially in Western markets. I didn't see any college protests over these killings, which was interesting. Maybe they'll come. I doubt it. But just a quick background before I want to throw this to Erica here. But hundreds of these hundreds were massacred in Syria after this crackdown on Assad loyalists. Okay, so in Syria right now, a very fluid situation, but videos were shared by fighters and residents showing dozens of people that were executed at point blank range and homes were set on fire. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a British based monitor, said 973 Alawites had been killed, including women and children. It said killings, field executions, ethnic cleansing operations underway. For those who don't know, that was Assad's minority group, the Alawites. They are an interesting Muslim group. They don't follow the same 5 pillars, but clearly a minority in Syria and somewhat of a revenge killing here. Among those dead include Christians and other minorities in the region. They're historically protected by the previous Assad regime, no longer in place. Seemed like open season. So its figures couldn't be verified immediately, but reports of massacres against Alawite civilians have prompted concern from the United Nations and European countries. I'd like to note the response from the United States and the European Union were very different. All interesting in tone. We'll get into the implications later, but really for America, what's going on here? Why did it not get the coverage that I think that this deserved?
Yeah, I think that the Middle East is taking a backseat across the Western world right now to the Ukraine Russia conflict. I think that there's also a sense here with the Syria story. When Assad fell, we have a great swath of Western progressives who were cheering for Assad to go down. You know, he was a horrible man. He was a tyrant. He really had iron rule over that country. And when he went down, everyone's cheering. And so now that the replacement ruler, who I'll get into in a second, now that he is committing these atrocities, it's like, oh, well, you know, we don't like that, but we're not going to make this a big deal. This isn't like, Palestine must be free from the river to the sea thing that a progressive majority can really latch onto. But just to give it a little bit more background, so they're blaming all these massacres on the country's new leader. His actual name is Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, and he's the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which I'll call HTS, which is the terrorist group that took down the Assad regime. He's sometimes referred to as Shura in the media, but that's a name that he took on to distance himself from, and the fact that he is tied to ISIS and Al-Qaeda funding, of course, these extremist Islamic terror groups. It's really important to remember here, and I know we've talked about this on the show a lot about the Middle East, that these countries' boundaries, Syria is artificial. It's not like there is a Syrian people that somehow suddenly became free after they got rid of Assad. We're talking about this artificial country whose borders were put in place post-World War I and then adjusted post-World War II. And in order to keep all of these disparate tribes and minorities and people under rule, it takes a terrible sort of totalitarian effort. And that's what we saw with Assad in many ways. So I think that in a way,
let's just say it's not easy. Yeah. It doesn't require per se.
It doesn't require perhaps,
but it's really hard.
Yeah. And this idea that somehow we can just walk in there as Americans and be like, can't we all just get along and we'll feed you all this stuff and we'll give all these weapons to this side to take down this totalitarian dictator and somehow fix the problem. And now suddenly it will be a democratic republic,
yes,
Mara Gaza kind of situation. It's not going to work that way. And I think that this latest outburst of violence, and especially the massacre of Christians, which many experts predicted when Assad fell would happen, there isn't a lot to say in a way. And the Trump, obviously like Marco Rubio, came out and condemned the violence. But at the same time, are we going to go in there again and say, okay, we don't like what he just did, we're going to replace him with a new puppet government and just continue this whole Western savior kind of syndrome? It's a difficult question. It's a terrible thing.
Well, part of it's the Western savior thing, but yeah, ultimately you get these bloodthirsty neocons in the United States who try to present this world in black and white, like, Saddam Hussein is terrible, Assad is terrible. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, sure. What? I mean, yeah, okay. What's your point? And they're like, well, we need to use military might and get rid of them, as if you're somehow going to replace them with this majestic, wonderful republic where they have wonderfully free elections and the rights of the minority are respected. And it's, give me a break. Like, the only place that happens in the Middle East is Oh, yeah, Israel, which you guys freaking hate. It just kind of drives me crazy. So it's like anytime they try to, that's what, a couple of years back, Tulsi Gabbard was like, hey, look, Assad isn't like a hero, but like he might be the best we got here in Syria. And everyone made her feel like, oh,
he's pro-terrorist.
Russian traitor.
She's a Russian traitor, pro-terrorist. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, how about this? How haven't we learned? I mean, like what happened in the 1970s? We got rid of the Shah in Iran and we get replaced it with this revolutionary government. It's not, it's not good. And then we get rid of Saddam and we get what? We get a horrible government in Iraq where Christians are slaughtered. So it's like, maybe the lesson here is these, tin pot, dictators are a hell of a lot better than, I don't know, some jihadist who slaughters thousands and thousands of Christians. Like, so, I mean, like, again, we need to turn the shame table around on these people and say, stop being such bloodthirsty war hawks that want to kill people and get rid of governments and pretend you're Thomas Jefferson and you're going to put in, some libertarian free market dude into this country. I mean, come on. They have no traditional history. They have no traditional history of rights as we normally think of them.
Yeah. Something I would like to see from the Trump administration, though, is over the weekend, we also had an offer of immigration status to all the South African farmers who are being prosecuted by the Black government. I'm like, okay, what about the Christians in Syria? Couldn't we just open up the doors for them at this point? Like, what does it take to prove that you're having a genocide waged against you? Can we do the same thing for them? That would be great.
Yeah, actually, I have to say, what was it, about 10 years ago when we experienced this genocide against Christians? A lot of credit to my good friend, the late Andrew Walther, who worked tirelessly at the Knights of Columbus and worked with the Secretary of State, John Kerry, at the time, and actually got the United States to declare that there was a genocide against Christians, which, again, you would think, well, that would be pretty obvious and be pretty easy, right? But for whatever reason, again, Western countries like the United States, we're like, what? Genocide against Christians? It doesn't even compute.
It doesn't register, right?
But I mean, like in the Middle East, it's like if Muslims are slaughtering Jews, then people on campuses like Columbia celebrate. And if the Jews fight back, they get really mad at the students at Columbia. But if Christians are slaughtered, you're right, Tom. It's like a snore fest. No one talks about it.
Gaza's complete rubble right now. So maybe this is where I depart with the full-on Zionist narrative here. I think that
I'm just saying it makes news either way. Is my point.
Makes news either way. Correct. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, basically, I'm looking at decades of frustration with United States foreign policy in the Middle East here. Apply it to whatever country or whatever conflict you want. I don't need to rehash exactly what you said, Josh, but what I will say is many people are cheering this new HTS leader of Syria as moderate. I put up before the Chiron from CNN of showing his pronouns, he, him.
He has pronouns.
He's trying to distance himself from his past ties to Al-Qaeda, which the fact that we were funding under Operation Timber Sycamore back in 2013, Obama's red line. I mean, it's the same people. It's interesting to me how the party structure is kind of flipped here. Back in the day, it used to be Republicans, right? Like we'd sweep in. We're going to set up democracy.
Yeah, George W. Bush.
Yep.
George W. Bush. And now those people, I mean, Liz Cheney hopped over to the Democrat side here, and who knows what kind of policy we'd be getting if Kamala Harris was in. I think this saddens me because it feels like a product of United States foreign policy. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And to your point before, it's so hard for me to even wrap my mind around the concept of a nation. So like America to me, always super defined, not really different tribes in America. It's like, okay, I live in America. I'm an American. I live in this state. The state model makes a lot of sense to me. That's like a Western conception. And to look at what's going on now, like we have an 8-faction civil war going on in Syria right now. And even the reason that this attack started was because there was an attack from pro-Assad faction that hit these people. So like, all right, we're going to hit them back. Let's go through the neighborhood and just sweep through all the Alawites, right? Get rid of these people, ethnic cleansing. We need to tamp down whatever this is. And my problem with this is I go and look at, a United States statement, then I look at an EU statement. And the EU statement I have here, the European Union strongly condemns the recent attacks, reportedly by pro-Assad elements on interim government forces in coastal areas of Syria and all violence against civilians. Civilians have to be protected in all circumstances in full respect of international humanitarian law. The EU also calls on all external actors to fully respect the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of Syria. The EU condemns any attempts to undermine stability and prospects for a lasting peaceful transition, inclusive and respectful to all Syrians and their diversity. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh. And then a Syrian hears that and they're like, inclusive
what
and
are you talking about?
respectful? What are you
Right.
talking? And this idea of like the sovereign borders thing, that is such a Western concept to even like impose upon the area. And again, like you said, Tom, I just get so frustrated that we keep going back to the same failed experiment of if we can just set down the borders, get a good government inside each little sovereign country and let them all, and they'll all get along because republic or whatever. It's again just trying the same tactic that has been failing for 120 years at this point.
Yeah. But I will say I was encouraged, and this is basically what Trump promised her, right? Back to a campaign speech, quote, "Our current strategy of nation building and regime change is a proven failure. We have created the vacuums that allow terrorists to grow and survive," obviously, as we're seeing here. Our new approach must be to halt the spread of radical Islam. And then Tulsi Gabbard also brought this out. So the United States statement on this from Marco Rubio is the United States condemns the radical Islamic terrorists, including foreign jihads that murdered people in Western Syria in recent days. The United States stands with Syria's religious and ethnic minorities, including its Christian, Druze, Alawite, and Kurdish communities, and offers its condolences to the victims and their families. Syria's interim authorities must hold the perpetrators of these massacres against Syria's minority communities accountable. And funny, this guy who's trying to appear moderate says, "Oh yeah, we're going to investigate this. We're going to look into it, make sure, what's going on is kosher." But the whole thing's very frustrating. I guess I just don't see a way out per se. I know that the way out isn't more war. What encourages me is people like JD Vance, people like Trump saying, we're kind of done with this project. Like, we're not just going to keep going in, throwing more military, try to create things that don't exist before. Another problem I see with this is, the Alawites are asking for Russia to come help at this point. Say, hey, we're being massacred. Guess what? Russia's probably going to sweep in. I don't know.
Syria, you're saying?
Yeah, into Syria.
Yeah, I mean, Russia's had a relationship with Syria for going back a ways, so it makes sense. Mm-hmm. But again, speaking of Russia, that's one of the frustrating things. Okay, so if you don't want to spend a ton of American money on the war in Ukraine, if you don't want U.S. involvement in Syria, troops on the ground there, whatever, then the left will accuse you of being a Russian stooge. Like, how about I just not really excited about a foreign war? I mean, isn't that okay? Right? I don't have to be a stooge for anyone else. I could just be like not wanting to do that. And like, wouldn't we say, like, look, when in the run up to the Iraqi war, which pretty much both sides universally think was really, in hindsight, a stupid idea, wasn't it awful that we would accuse people who didn't want to fight in this war, didn't want to support the war, as if they were weasels? Like that's what the 100%. New York Post had was weasels on the cover, right? And the left was too afraid to go up against it, and so they kind of like were scared. But like in retrospect, they kind of regret that they weren't more courageous and strong and against it. So wasn't the attack on people reluctant to go to war in Iraq, wasn't that an unfortunate thing? Shouldn't we have listened to them, like people in our own country, and also Pope John Paul II? So isn't the lesson here, like, to be resistant of war is actually a natural inclination and a good thing? It doesn't make us evil. It doesn't make us a stooge. In fact, we got to turn the shame table around on that.
I love flipping the shame table.
Anything else on this, Erica, before we go forward?
No, I think that in general, and I know people in the chat have been mentioning Nigeria as well. It's good to cultivate an awareness of the real persecution that Christians are undergoing around the world, whether it's in the Middle East, in these small minority communities, in Nigeria, in Africa, and in Asia. I mean, we keep talking about China, and just especially during Lent, I would encourage everyone to like educate yourself and be aware. And keep the prayers going. We talk, people will be like, oh, the church is persecuted in the United States and all that, and in a manner of speaking, but when you compare it to the stories coming out of these places, it gives you some perspective.
No, I think back to like the Marianites and the Armenian Christians there. I mean, that's like the cradle of civilization. Christianity goes back to Damascus. That's where St. Paul converted. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. From the United States perspective, I feel like we've contributed to a lot of this, but this radical Islamic violence is clearly a problem. this might be a simple take, but I just don't see it from the Christians. Maybe people want to go back to their crusades, I guess, but there's even debates on that. Clearly, we have
well, in the meantime, solve our own problems.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, like, you think about it, 120 years ago, you're talking about these borders of like Syria and stuff like that. 120 years ago, you're right. It was the British Empire like leaving, and we're not going to be, colonists anymore. We're colonial power, and they retreat, and then kind of the map goes all crazy for the next 120 years. And what's happened now is that these Islamic extremists have moved into England and have colonized them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, back to our own government here. We have a potential government shutdown. I feel like this gets talked about every
about every often, 6
Josh?
months. Yeah.
Yeah. About every 6 months. So we're facing potential shutdown if Congress does not pass a funding bill by March 14th. It's the end of this current year's fiscal first quarter. Donald Trump has endorsed a 6-month stopgap measure known as a continuing resolution, CR, we'll probably say this episode, to fund the government through September 30th. The proposal aims to maintain existing spending levels, increasing defense spending by $6 billion, reducing non-defense discretionary spending by $13 billion. It also includes funding for border enforcement and a $20 billion reduction in IRS funding. Josh, is this business as usual? Will it get passed? Will the government shut down? All the usual questions I ask you every 6 months.
So a continuing resolution funds the government at the current levels for however long they want it for. So I think it's this, you said this case, it's going to be 6 months till November or whatever.
Yep, 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, and then you hear, so that's a CR, continuing resolution. Keep it going. And this is a clean CR, which means they're not really throwing on a bunch of different amendments onto it. Like you might say, well, it'd be nice if we could stop, like let's throw in a policy where we add a little bit more money for the border. And how about we put in a provision there so we stop giving money to baby killers like Planned Parenthood? And you start throwing all this stuff on, and then it gets hard to get the dang thing passed, and it doesn't end up happening. Now the left wants to throw a bunch of stuff in. Don't, stop Doge. Don't do this. Don't cut that. Don't forget about our precious federal workers. And so, both, it's like, look, raise with the majority. It's going to be hard to get anything passed. The Republicans are like, just clean continuing resolution, clean CR, fund the government until November, give us enough time to go through the normal annual appropriations process and pass these budgets. But this is my biggest lament with what Congress does. So if I were a member of the House Republican caucus, would I vote for it? I would. But I am frustrated with this policy. Like, it would be nice actually if we, got around to actually having an appropriations budget in a process where we cut spending. But I just want to remind that, like, most conservatives who watch the news and listen to it, like, I wish the government would shut down, screw the government, cut off funding. Yeah, you say that. The American people are just not super libertarian types who want to cut tons of government spending. So, like, it's just not popular. It's going to take a while before we rein in this government a little bit. And we need more and more people waking up to what's going on in the world, and on our side. And we need to elect more courageous people. But like, right now, I mean, you're not going to get much done. The Doge thing's helpful, but I mean, I don't know. Manage your expectations. Like this idea that some conservatives go, I can't believe this doing happening again. Like, have you seen the other side? The other side wants to like have the government control of everything in the world. Like you just got to try to advance, policy as you can. But I mean,
Yeah, well, Congressman Chip Roy this was a quote that I found of his in response to the CR, because obviously we have some Republicans who are like, I won't vote for this. It doesn't cut enough, blah, blah. And he says, okay, you're telling me as a conservative, you're going to freeze spending for 6 months, hold the defense hawks at bay, get everyone in a room and keep getting Doge transparency and demonstrating all the waste, fraud, and abuse, and that we can then get that to inform the fiscal year 26. He's like, I'm good with that. Like, let's just get it done. That. Right. Like, just get it done. Let's keep doing the Doge thing and see what happens. I did have a question for Josh, actually, that has to do with the budget. So I just put the link in the show notes there, Pogo. Marco Rubio announced this morning that, in fact, 83% of programs at USAID are being canceled. So they've concluded their initial review of USAID funding. Remember the whole freezing thing, and it's gone through the courts and blah, blah, blah. Well, they've concluded the initial review, and he's announcing 83% of the programs are canceling, and that the State Department intends to fold all of the remaining stuff under itself, under its own aegis. So my question is, with the money that was allocated to this 83%, do we get that back? Like, how does that work? Like, where does that money go? I mean, other than the fact that it's not our money and we're borrowing it from China and all that, yes. Like, we don't have the money that we're canceling, not paying, which doesn't make sense. But what happens to that?
So the continuing resolution is going to authorize everything that had been previously authorized in the last budget. So there'll still be authorization for all these USAID programs. They're just not going to, they're also going to not fund them this time too. So that's all it is. I mean, like, because the language of the CR is pretty basic. Like, whatever we spent on the last, budget, we're going to do that again for 6 months. I mean, it really is not that complicated. And so again, just because this is the thing that again, people call constitutional crisis, but just because Congress authorizes funds, which is a necessary requirement for you to spend it, doesn't mean you have to spend it. And you tell that to a liberal and they're like, you hate the Constitution? That's a constitutional crisis. And it's funny because I'm being lectured by people who don't give a rip about the First Amendment right to free speech.
Well, or who were cheering when Joe Biden was like, I have created a new constitutional amendment like 24 hours before he
out of thin air, right?
Out of thin air, right?
Which Georgetown law said was right.
Like,
so
yay!
Don't go to Georgetown law because they don't apparently know how to teach constitutional law. So just in order for the government to spend money, you need Congress to authorize it. And the liberals say, oh, but Congress authorized it, therefore you must spend it. No, that's not true. We don't have to spend it.
Wow.
And the president of the United States has the authority to impound funds. And this 1974 Impoundment Act is totally unconstitutional, and I think it should be challenged, and I will welcome that challenge. And I told you about that before. The OMB director, Russ Vought, had that interview, I think it was with Tucker last year, where he was rock solid on this issue. So we're looking forward to that. And again, we're seeing these court cases percolate through the federal courts, and sometimes on process we might lose one. By the way, okay, so that was one of the things that we talked about.
Josh, sorry, before you move on.
No, Amy Coney Barrett, everyone was dogging on her. Remember that?
Okay, no. This is a very specific money question.
2 seconds. He was asked about this. Trump backed her up. He said he was pro ECB.
Yep, great. I know. We can get into that in a second. I'm just saying, Erica asked 83% cut, right? You're saying that we could impound it. But is it like does the money stay in the treasury? Does it get taken?
If it's not spent, it's still in the treasury.
Right. So that basically we get taxed. That tax money goes to the treasury. Congress approves us to spend this on USAID, whatever.
Right.
83%. So instead of going out to whatever USAID initiative or contract or whatever, it just stays in the treasury.
Operas in Guatemala. Sorry.
Well, it stays in the treasury, but of course, here's the thing. It's not even that. It's that we don't issue bonds that we try to get people to buy so that we can borrow money, right? Because we're not. So in other words, if we don't spend it on USAID, we're not borrowing the money from China. That's the point. Because the amount of money we're spending is vastly larger than the amount of tax revenue we bring in.
Right.
So we're not borrowing. This is why I keep telling people about it. It's like, USAID, oh, you can't, if you don't spend this money, you don't believe in helping poor people. It's like, stop it. What we're doing is deciding not to borrow money from China for transgender comic books in Peru. We're going broke as a country. Is that good for the world? Is that good for our country? Is that good for poor people that we're trying to help? No, it's not good. So stop borrowing money from China at the point where we're going to probably go bankrupt soon just to pay for like a transgender opera. Like the Secretary of Agriculture, Rollins, just cut off, $63 million. No longer going to fund a study on whether or not transgender men menstruate. Don't need to pay the money. We know they don't. It's done.
Oh, that study completed in 1 second by Josh Mercer.
But how will we ever know which came first, the chicken or the egg? We need
like a social media cut up of every time
saved.
Josh says borrow money from China. And I just need like 100 different versions of we're borrowing money from China.
Yeah.
We're borrowing money from China. We're borrowing money from China.
Right. Listen. And you know what? I get the feeling that China loves it. Like they love us being, we talk about the 4th of July as being Independence Day. How independent are we if we keep having to borrow so much money from China? And what happens if cryptocurrencies become the world's reserve currency so people don't care about U.S. Treasury bonds as much anymore, which is what's starting to happen, which is why it's becoming more and more expensive for us to finance our debt, which is why this is why we're doing Doge, by the way. That's why they're doing this, because they're looking ahead and they're like, it's going to be more and more expensive for us to borrow money to pay for these transgender comic books. So we better cut the spending. Otherwise, we're going to watch our economy go down the toilet.
This is like the Charlie Day 100%. Meme where there's all the red lines. And Josh did the
it's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Treatment. Yeah, it's always sunny.
People say budgeting stuff is boring. You can make it exciting if you realize what's really going on. They are fleecing us blind. And all these programs, like, why are they spending $63 million to study whether or not transgender men menstruate? That's stupid. Well, it's not stupid. So, they know what they're doing. It's a kickback. Yeah, that's what all this stuff is. It's feathering the nest of their friends.
Wait, it's that meme. It's the purpose of a system is
what it does.
Yeah. It's like it's all just a big money laundering operation. There's stuff. Did you see the?
So argument? You're not outraged enough,
right? Totally. Did you see that they were trying to fact check Trump on the transgender mice thing? Did you look into that?
Oh, I did not know.
No.
I think it was like Reason magazine. The libertarians were like, he's not actually trans. That wasn't really a study on transgender mice. It was something different. And then
probably Kathy Young
in the article,
she's crazy.
In the article, it's like, well, it was actually to study the effects of transgender something on mice so that we could learn something else. But, and then it was like, they didn't spend all the millions of dollars. I was like, all right, you lost me at you were doing anything involving anything with mice. Like, I'm out.
Yeah, I loved, so the White House.
Well, technically.
Right.
Well, actually.
White House.gov. I don't know like what troll they have writing responses to CNN on that website, but this was how they addressed the CNN fact check. They go, the fake news losers at CNN, this is the official whitehouse.gov website. The fake news losers at CNN immediately tried to fact check it, but President Trump was right, as usual. And then they go on and they have all the bullet points, links to the studies. You can go on the NIH and find them. And it was just, it's kind of sweet. I'm not tired of winning.
But these guys, like the fact checks, it's such a BS industry. Oh. It's really
fact checking the fact check.
It's media companies doing Democratic oppo research against Republicans. It's not like they're actually treating both sides equally. Like, of course not.
And receiving money to do so from the government, by the way.
Oh yes,
this is all circular. Yes. This is like all the censorship, misinformation people. They were all getting greased by USAID and other.
You think back,
initiatives.
Tom? How did we win any election the last 10 years? Like all this, all this stuff coming up against us.
It's so crazy.
Launch a global pandemic from Wuhan. Let's fund fact checkers. Let's cut off social media, right. and we still fight and win.
Shout out Rosie. She found that yes, Biden spent millions on transgender animal expectations. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So we have the receipts.
Scroll down. They have all the links, all the receipts. You click through those links and you go straight to the studies published by the progressive NIH CDC people. It's all there. It's just,
and you got to talk about the hubris of these people fact checking what they know is publicly available from the National Institute.
You can literally go look at the PDF of the study.
It's a Google away. This is all public.
Yeah. No, the gamble is that the people that they're speaking to will not go outside of the CNN, MSNBC leftist bubble because they've been indoctrinated and brainwashed and propagandized to say, okay, everything out of the White House because Trump is there is propaganda. Everything out of Daily Wire is propaganda. Everything out of Free Press is propaganda. They've been totally brainwashed, so they will never triangulate or check for themselves. Also, the stupid Department of Education has been making Americans so dumb that your average American who will just consume news from their one outlet and never think, maybe I should go find primary resources, which if you were classically trained, that's like the number one thing. We read primary texts.
Go to that primary text.
Yep.
Although,
so this is my bridge to, we need to get rid of the education department.
oh yeah, agree on that. But
Pronto.
I actually do think in some ways I'm not as pessimistic on fact checking abilities or ability to think critically in the modern age, because the internet has made primary text available to many people that otherwise
This
wouldn't
is
have
true.
I
And
mean,
okay, so I will walk it back a little bit here. I will walk it back enough to say that the fact that Trump won the popular vote, that alone gives me hope that more Americans are now fact checking for themselves and trying to get outside of the narrative, right?
right.
Just that fact alone is a good indicator that there is hope for the American people.
That's what we're starting to see. Citizen-driven media, not
Yes.
just obviously, I think the Loop, but then people themselves going onto social media and exchanging information. Hey, did you see this? Did you see that? Sometimes they get stuff wrong. Gee, no shock. Like
Mhm.
almost all the time, the media gets it wrong. So like they're still batting twice the batting average, 5 times the average. But it is nice to see this kind of stuff. And that's actually why I would say long term, I feel so good for our country. I honestly do. I mean, the kids get it. People younger than us, like for the last 50, 60 years, the liberals are always like, ha, you old fogies don't get it. You're going to be replaced by people who are like total
We're
communists.
sticking it to the man. And I'm like,
And now it's starting to turn around. We're turning this franchise around. Let me tell you something. Like the citizen media, like the moms, appearing at the, school board meetings. But it's now these younger folks, 18 to 29, they're like becoming solid, conservatives. They're pushing back against this stuff. I think we have the ability to finally have a real resurgence. And I think the future looks bright. I really do. I think we can turn this around. My biggest lament, like I remember when I was living in Washington, D.C. in the Beltway, and this is like the turn of the century, right? 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003.
Oh,
right?
turn of the century. That's great. Now I feel old.
And I talked to these guys in the Beltway, typical, and all they cared about their neocon stuff, they're bombing other countries, tax cuts. And I'd say, look, we need to fight this battle on marriage. Like total capitulation. They gave up without a fight. It was like, what? Oh, yep, fine. You conquer us, whatever. And they let that sexual revolution conquer. There was no fight back on any of that stuff. And now I think our side is like, no, we're not going to get everything. We're not going to win everything. But at least I feel like we're much more educated with social media. We're able to connect and network with people and have a real honest pushback on stuff. I think, I don't know.
We were a couple inches away.
Can I just share my favorite citizen journalist moment from over the weekend?
Sure.
So you know that there were all these protests popping up all over the place against Elon Musk. And so we had all these armed assaults on Tesla dealers. People were burning. We covered last week, they're burning the Tesla charging stations in Massachusetts. We even had people like chasing down Cybertrucks and like giving it the finger because #BraveStunning or something. Yep. But my favorite citizen journalist moment was this college kid in Philadelphia. He went up to one of the Tesla dealerships and he was interviewing the people outside and he's filming himself and he interviews the kids out there with their cardboard signs. It turns out every single one of them was being paid. They were paid protesters and he just posted it on social media. And as a result of that, more stories are coming out about how these protests were really engineered from above. This is not grassroots. But again, it's the citizen journalist thing. Like some kid just took his cell phone, was like, okay, I'll go talk to the protesters. And they're like being paid. And all these journalists then pick it up in the independent press. That's how that works. That's how you get the real information, what's going on there.
I love it.
Great. I loved it.
Yeah.
I will find the clip. People always want me to give names. I'll go find the clip. Except Twitter's down again. Guys, what's going on?
Twitter has been kind of buggy today. I was going to pull up is it Francis Collins? Did you guys
I can sing it for you before my voice completely goes. This is for all the good people. So what happened, Pogo? Do share. Yeah, Twitter's down.
Sorry, all my Twitter's red down. Lines. We might have to ad-lib it. Oh yeah, I got it. So the resistance. This is the resistance right here. For all the people that are like, RFK Jr. is such a quack. Like he has no credentials. He's so weird. He can't do anything. Like these were the people in charge of medical health our country. Here's a little performance at a protest for everyone.
Together by this noble dream. Have you got that? So it's just all the good people, but the second line, part of this family, and the last line, we're joined together by this noble dream. Do that with me. This is a song for all the good people. Come on.
I think it's way too loud.
Who are part of this family. This is a song for all the good people. We're joined together by this noble dream.
Oh man, so awesome.
Okay, so probably not the death penalty for that, but let me tell you, you said these are the people that mess with the nation's health, but the same kind of people mess with our church's liturgy. This is garbage.
Oh, this is
1975.
This is the
There's a
Back to the Future.
This is Dr. Francis Collins. He's the former director of the National Institutes of Health.
Raised Catholic, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he must have been paying attention during some liturgy music in the 70s. What does this sign say behind him? Some of the signs are killing me, man. Is it
something about we love science? Yeah, we love science. Coming from the man who engineered the COVID lockdowns together with Fauci, was rich. Yeah, we love the science. Yeah, he was told us it was not manufactured in a lab, and that's conspiracy theory. And all these professors at the Great Barrington Declaration have to be fired from their jobs. Yeah, that's Francis Collins.
Francis Collins. I guess Tinfoil Tom said he used to do this at meetings.
Yeah.
He said
he would pull out his guitar.
Yeah.
What we need is Belushi's character in Animal House to grab the guitar and just smash it.
Oh, did you see Belushi, or who was it? Bill Murray went on Joe Rogan, and he said,
"Yes, oh my gosh, I watched that." Clip
he read 5 pages of the Belushi book, and he's
by Bob Woodward.
Yeah, by Bob Woodward, and he's like, and then I knew that they got Nixon.
They framed Nixon
because he knew what he had said about his own friend was so full of crap and baloney that. Well, wait a minute now. Then what they're saying about Nixon might be complete crap and baloney too.
Yeah.
And it for sure was.
My red pill moments with that. So my favorite film in 8th grade was All the King's Men, where you have like Robert Redford. I just loved that movie. I loved it. And like the journalist like stick it to the man. And so of course for the next 3 years I hated Nixon passionately because I was all into that movie.
Well, all the President's Men, not all
the President's Men. I'm sorry. And then I was going all British for a second. But then for AP US History junior year of high school, I actually started reading into the Watergate stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, there's some other sides of this.
Wait, all the people raiding the office were somehow involved with the CIA. That's weird.
It was
what's going on.
Amazing.
But it was still a really well done movie, right? With like Deep Throat in the shadows of the parking garage and all that.
Yeah.
Well, how about these guys? Like Woodward and Bernstein, they named their secret informant after the name of a well-known popular pornographic movie. Like, way to go, guys. I mean, everything about it was just trash. Screw them.
Interesting.
But I still think we landed on the moon. I still think Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. So there.
All right.
Yeah, but that's the thing is you need to go back and watch All the President's Men and root for Nixon.
I should watch it again. I haven't watched it since high school.
Of course.
I loved it.
Like, and so they asked Trump about this. They asked Trump about Nixon, and he says he talked to the Nixon family, and they all said, yeah, he regretted that. The mistake he made was not to fight back because it was a CIA coup against Nixon.
Oh man, yeah. Wouldn't that? It is interesting to think about in the era of Trump, of just Trump refusing to quit and just taking the fight. That kind of gets back to this whole thing. Yes, I think.
And who was the Republican? Who was the elder statesman of the Republican Party? Barry, who went up to Nixon and told him to quit. Barry Goldwater said he didn't have enough Republicans in the Senate. But then who's the other one? George H. Bush. What was he?
President.
He would eventually become director of the CIA. I mean, so it's
I didn't make that connection. Speaking of conspiracy theories, do we have the rest of the Epstein files yet? Epstein files? Has Pam Bondi released anymore? Are we?
You know what I have to say about this? I don't think it's going to come out. It's kind of a no-win situation. I don't think it's going to come out in the way that people want it to come out. And I think the Epstein thing as a whole has kind of become like a golden calf for people.
Great analogy. Good metaphor.
It represents more than just Epstein. It represents like all the lies we've been told as a government. And we've really latched on to this one. Like, yes, I think there's lying. There's intelligence connections up and down on Epstein, but like what's going to come out? Is there a golden binder that's going to reveal all the information that everyone's ever wanted. I just don't think so.
Or is it as bad? It's wretched, but is it as horrible as it's being made out to be? Maybe not. So maybe it'll always be a letdown. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Or it could be just as bad. I don't know. But
it could be.
I will say there's been some podcasts recently, and I tried listening to them, and it is such a bummer. Like, I hate even saying this, but just having to listen to this depresses me to no
dark,
end. I'm like, all the honeypot operations, all the stuff we've been party to, like, even for example, like with Middle East and Afghanistan, like I've done some reading on the type of people that we've used as assets, like Afghanistan culture of pedophilia with young boys and stuff like that. And we had to work with these people in order to get the bad guys. And it's just like, man, there's a lot of depressing stuff out there. I guess it's hard for me to descend into that. I just really want to focus on,
which is why I'm glad I was a member of the military, because I'm like, oh, I have to work with this guy's a pedophile, because you gave me a gun with a bunch of bullets, and I can take care of that right now.
Totally, yeah. It takes a ton of restraint. I actually have a lot of respect for. I mean, I always have men in uniform, of course, because not only does that require a lot of restraint to not do that in the moment, but the training that you're given in America to have obedience, be cohesive, and not do things like that. They have to make really hard decisions. None of this is revolutionary. I got a lot of respect for our boys in uniform. But that's why I think, again, there's a lot here. I think transparency and to the American people is so important. And people are, the resistance against Trump being in charge of the executive branch and commander in chief of the military, I think is misplaced. Like we elect as the people an executive that can enjoy executive authority and is accountable to the people, or we're run by bureaucrats that are making behind doors decisions and deals that we know nothing about. And then they're just going to hide and justify it till the end of time. So I think I'm encouraged by what I've seen so far. Do I think they'll probably fall in some of the same traps that we have in the past? Yeah, probably.
Inevitably. Right.
And I think Pam Bondi has a really tough job. I mean, it's like, I think I was listening to another interview. It's like taking over a ship that hates you of the enemy. And you have to kind of slowly work on all these people that worked tooth and nail to get you not in the place that you're in right now. And you got to work for 4 years and light speed to try to get these people out and try to get some positives. So that's why I'm not like, oh, we're going to get everything we ever wanted immediately right now. I'm willing to have some patience because I've liked what I've seen so far. And I like a lot of the picks I think are representative of what the American people want. They want accountability. They want radical change. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. So that's where I'm at in the Epstein stuff. And it bums me out so much. I'm like, I just want to control what I can control. And at the end of the day, just live a really personally holy life and stay close to the sacraments. I don't know if you get so deep into this stuff and you don't have something like that to anchor you or to feel a daily personal fulfillment and connection to a purpose and what your life is for, it'd be really hard. I could see going off the deep end really quickly or getting super depressed
100%.
or just throwing your hands up and being like, it's over. So I don't know.
Well, I think what happens is when we have a nation, and we've talked a lot about the decline of religious affiliation in the United States. And when you remove those, metaphysical guideposts, right, that kind of anchor you on either side, there's a lot of dark stuff happening, and you start to fill that void with, you get into the dark stuff, and then you start to make a political party your God or your savior, and and then you're inevitably disappointed by them, or you just get really depressed and lost, and you would fall into despair, which is why we need religion. We need Lent. I have to say, like, first weekend of Lent did not disappoint as usual. God always provides. He's like, oh, you want to do Lent? Here you go. But yeah, you've got to stay grounded there.
Yeah, and we're talking about Syria today.
Let's give up your voice for Lent, Erica.
Oh, right.
As a podcaster. We're talking about Syria today. We're talking about Nigeria today and the physical suffering that they're going through. And I think in America, we suffer from a profound spiritual persecution and poverty. And I don't think, I don't know. I'm in the American situation, so I don't want to speak to the other, but there's negatives to both. And I think there's opportunities to fall into pitfalls in both. And I think the opportunity to fall into a spiritual despair here, a mental despair, is a lot greater in America, but just as problematic for salvation. No question. In some ways, a physical persecution, actually, you get the gift of martyrdom, hopefully, to those people suffering. But your life is really in front of you. Like you see everything much clearer than we're in such a safe, cushy, situation in America, it could almost take you away from the spiritual realities, the physical realities of suffering and what everything's about. Sorry, I'm just metaphysically rambling here. We need to get back to what's going on. But Josh,
right.
I wanted the opportunity for you to talk parliamentary politics. So Canada has a new prime minister.
Canada. That was awesome. Sorry.
The 51st
really
state. Mark Carney. And they've been talking about Trudeau being out forever. It sounds like he did now, but I don't understand how all of this works. Can you just lay it down to me? Who is this guy? Why is he here?
Okay, so the coalition government in Canada, which is of Trudeau's Liberal Party and the other party, I'm forgetting what they are now. It's anyway, so it's two different political parties, and they together have a majority of the seats in the parliament, right?
Yeah.
And the leader is Justin Trudeau.
Not anymore.
Well, what happened is his polling numbers just went cratered, and they went into the toilet. And so he realized, like everyone around him is like, bro, you got to go. It's not working out. We could lose really, really badly. And so he offers to step down as soon as a new leader is selected. That doesn't have to be a new election. So what happens is the Liberal Party, his party, gets together and they decide who they want as a leader. Mark Carney was always considered the number one pick. He's the finance minister. And why did it take so long? They wanted to wait like 7 or 8 weeks before he made that announcement, before they actually had this, because Mark Carney didn't know any French. He was the guy, the finance minister. He couldn't speak that much French. So he had to take French lessons, because if you're the leader of France, you need to be able to communicate in both English and in French, because the Quebec is a significant colony there, or province. And so, yeah, they had the elections over the weekend. He got 85% of the vote. And so now he is going to be, he'll present himself, to be the new leader of the party. Therefore, he becomes prime minister. Now, if the minority party that's part of that coalition, if they wanted to back out, then the government would dissolve, because there would be no one with a majority. And then they would have to have elections. They're scheduled to have elections anyway in October. And at this point, 4 months ago, conservatives were looking like they were going to win a resounding victory, a large supermajority. But there is a cost to Trump's tough talk on tariffs. People are associating the conservatives, with Pierre Poilievre, with Donald Trump. And so their numbers have gone down. And now that Trudeau's gone and Mark Carney is the new leader, it's actually going to be neck and neck, and it could go either way. But, it's obviously, we got 7 months towards the election anyway. But they have a constitutionally mandated election coming up in October. So we'll see.
It's got to be so frustrating for Pierre Poilievre. It was just cruising, doing so well. He got Elon Musk to endorse him, and then all of a sudden the tariffs drop, and everyone's like, I hate you now.
Well, we'll see. I mean, if we get resolution on the tariffs, then you still have a question where the people of Canada are like, inflation is still ravaging. They're still putting a carbon tax. And, it's one of those things where in politics, the timing right now isn't so good. But by the time the summer rolls around, it'll be a whole different ballgame.
Yeah,
I mean, in politics, a week can be like a lifetime. And so 7 months from now can be a lot different story.
Okay, just general question about parliamentary politics, I guess. It's hard for me to imagine as an American, just at a snap of a coalition falls apart, we got to elect a new leader. Is it kind of hard to get things done when that's...
It's effectively the same thing like what happened with Republicans, right, in the House of Representatives, when the conservative agitators didn't like the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. And they said, we want to get rid of him. And they did it, voted no confidence, and he got booted out. And so then they got Mike Johnson elected. But Mike Johnson is just the Speaker of the House. If we had a parliamentary system, then it would be like Mike Johnson is now the prime minister. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so then if you didn't like him, then you get rid of your leader and you have someone else. But we have a different system. We have an executive that is elected separately from the legislative.
We just have a far superior system.
It's true.
I like it. I like it better. But there are pros and cons.
I do like their debates more, though. Their debates are more fun to watch,
no
for sure. I love watching the UK Parliament go at it, House of Commons.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, actually, funny enough, when I was in high school, would you believe this?
I probably will.
My classmates said, we're all trying to ruminate on different things, and they said the job that Josh Mercer would be perfect for, and this is what they said: member of the English Parliament.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Would you wear a
You
wig?
just get up there and start talking.
Which is, interestingly enough,
Answer my question.
400 years. Would I wear a wig? Cover up this dome, maybe. But 400 years ago, there was a Mercer. My ancestor was a member of the English Parliament, so they're not off.
There you go.
That would be awesome. That would be so awesome. That'd be cool, like Make-A-Wish opportunity.
The English are so much better at insults. You know what I'm saying? Because they invented the language. Like, my right honorable friend is full of gas. So good.
All right, we got time for Twilight Zone now, Erica.
All right, I get to go first this time.
Yep.
So the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center last week became the center of progressive leftist mind-blowing controversy when Lin-Manuel Miranda, the great composer and lyricist of Hamilton the musical, announced that Hamilton the musical, which was scheduled to run at the Kennedy Center at the end of this month, March, was no longer going to perform because Trump had fired most of the board of the Kennedy Center and was ripping funding from the arts and free speech, which fuels our great country. And so, Hamilton on X put out this very brave statement about how, and my X is not loading. But anyway, basically, they're not going to do it. Other artists who pulled out of their performance contracts include Ben Folds 5. Really just Ben Folds now because it's just him. I like to listen to him once in a while when I'm feeling very emo. But this was the Hamilton statement. Political disagreement and debate are vital expressions of democracy. These basic concepts of freedom are at the heart of Hamilton, which I can wrap
Such
in
a
full,
random aside.
and I will one of these days. However, some institutions are sacred and should be protected from politics.
Eric, are you in on Hamilton? Let's couch all this with.
Oh, I can do the whole thing. Yeah.
So
But I would say from 2016 to 2019, I pretty much listened to it on every long car ride with my children.
It's a lot.
So yeah, it's a lot.
Confirmed.
I was into it.
My stars.
I was rolling. And so so Trump has appointed Rich Grinnell to oversee the Kennedy Center. Hamilton does not like Rich Grinnell, but he uncovered some interesting information over the weekend. It turns out that the Kennedy Center is completely broke. He has been advised, I was briefed today by the CFO of the Kennedy Center on the financial situation. She told me there is zero cash on hand and zero in reserve, and deferred maintenance on the building, of course, is a crisis. It always is. And for the past months, they have been digging into their debt reserves. So up until this time, I did some digging and I was like, where's all the money? Where did it go?
So I went to borrow from China.
Well, that's where I was coming from, apparently. I went to usaspending.gov, and they have some crazy funding issues. So it turns out when the Biden administration knew that they were going to lose this election, Harris is like, they're not looking good. They immediately write this check for $19 million in September of 2024 to the Kennedy Center, including a $10 million grant to a jobs program for cultural diversity and disability diversity in hiring around all the country. So somehow they went from $20 million in their coffers before Biden went out of office to nothing in the reserves or the coffers now that Trump has sent his guys in to turn things around. So once again, we're looking at the crazy grift. Someone asked Trump, well, why are you digging into the Kennedy Center? Like, why did you fire all of their board of directors, et cetera? And he said, well, we looked at their programming and we just don't like their programming. So Pogo, if you could just throw up my last link there.
Yeah. I was taking a look at some of their employee salaries too. President makes $1 million, $1,376,000.
Well, apparently she won't this year because they're out of money. And I don't see it coming through. But yeah, we have this.
Is this the gay? You want to post the gay one?
This is the Gay Men's Chorus DC.
Sweet.
They had a nice fat one there. But anyway, Kennedy Center, goodbye. Sorry, Hamilton.
Wait, so is this what you want me to put up?
Yeah, there you go. This is one of the programming that Trump looked into, and he just really didn't like it. I don't know, Josh. This looks like it could be fun.
What is the Kennedy Center? Sorry to be...
Yeah, so the Kennedy Center is the largest performing arts center in DC, and it was instituted in honor of John F. Kennedy. So if you're at the Lincoln Memorial and you look up the river a little bit, you'll see this big white center. But they fund a lot of arts programs, National Endowment for the Arts, all over the country. And so they have a pretty broad, like, cultural reach in terms of they have a lot of programs in inner cities, and they're a real exporter of extreme leftist propaganda through the arts.
So what'll happen is halfway through Vance's second presidential term, they'll rename it the Trump Center.
All right, let's do it. Trump did name himself to the board, which also made the New York Times lifestyle section's hair catch on fire. It's been quite the drama.
Yeah.
And that's my Twilight Zone.
Okay. Josh, what do you have?
Well, I am a McDonald's customer. Here is the hellscape of a new McDonald's Playland. Do you see this?
Oh, dude, I did see this. Yeah.
I put it in the Loopcast Slack because I don't know how to. Twitter is down right now, but
let's see. Oh yeah, just a screenshot.
So we're used to all these different Playland areas. Going through the different things, going down the slide, running around, all that stuff, climbing up this, climbing up that. Not anymore. We have in Franklin, Tennessee, a new play place for kids. And are there any ropes to climb? Are there any slides to go down? Tunnels to walk through, crawl through? That's a big no, dog.
I'm trying to get, because the Twitter's down and I can't get that over, but.
Man, it's hard to do a show without Twitter. Come on, Elon.
No, who knows?
It's a protest.
It's brutal. It's like 2 screens in an empty room.
Yeah, there's like 2 little touch screens for the kids to like sit on these hard plastic seats and touch them in this big empty room with tiles.
Let's see.
It's
got it. Here we go.
It's the icon of everything that's wrong with like family unfriendly in America. It's so depressing. And the big hamburger on the window.
So, I mean, this becomes just another one of the things that people like me who are Gen Xers go, look what they took from you. And it makes for great clickbait. But at the end of the day, I mean, I got 6 kids now that none of them are really, they're all too old for a typical Playland now. But I remember we go to some of these Playlands and they're like, these are pretty nasty, pretty unsanitary. Yeah. And is it really, because they're, it's not like the guys who fry our hamburgers and all that stuff. And they're going to go and they're going to properly sanitize it. And actually part of it is the culture you live in. Like, in the 70s and 80s, when they were doing this kind of stuff, like parents, I think, were just a little bit more responsible for their kids than they are today. Like kids are just like nasty. And like the parents are like, aren't you clean this kid up? And like, forget it. I don't want to go to McDonald's with the Playland anymore. So yes, this does look like a dystopian hellscape, but I don't want the germ-infested area anyway. They never clean them up enough.
I never let my kids in there at all.
To be fair,
really gross.
How would you clean the tunnels?
That's what I'm saying.
That's tough. That's a tough.
I get it.
Yeah, those are nasty. But I'm like, if someone throws up in a tunnel, how we?
Oh my gosh! In the chat, we have my toddler emerged eating a sport corn. It's so gross.
Oh man, that's gross.
Never again.
No. Ugh, okay.
Yeah. So
I don't like either end of this. I don't like the really gross throw up tunnels, and I don't like 2 chairs and a screen. We need to find somewhere in the middle.
Right. There is no middle. It's a restaurant now. Sorry.
Yeah. Drive to a park or drive somewhere else and go.
But it is true that McDonald's is the #1 distributor of toys in the United States.
Really?
Interesting.
That's crazy. Through the Happy Meal thing?
Of course.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
Okay, so I've been honestly really excited. It's probably what I've been most excited to talk about, which should say a lot about me. I don't know if any of you have perused X.com these days, but I think for the last week, all I could see was memes of JD Vance. And I have a collection here for us to go through. I was trying my best to find
is it family friendly?
Yeah. I mean, look at this.
So what is the deal with this part? Help me understand this.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that the first one was like a Giga Chad meme from just a random Twitter account, and then all of a sudden everyone started memeing him. And then I remember that it was the meeting.
The congressman that did the Giga Chad thing. I remember that.
Yeah, but I don't even think it was him. I think it was just like an anonymous person. And I'm trying to think of why the start of this happened.
It was the Ukraine thing.
No, that was
Zelensky.
okay. That was
That was
the
the spark
pitch.
because JD Vance is just looking like this. Like, what the heck is this guy?
I think this was like the first one. This is Ohio Senate portrait, and someone
Can you describe it for the audio?
Yeah.
Can you?
Okay.
This is a challenge.
It's JD Vance, his Senate portrait, and someone made like a AI handsome edit of him, so it kind of like chiseled out his jaw, gave him a little bit more of a beard.
It looks more like Thor. It looks a little like Chris Hemsworth, yeah.
And I think it started as a joke, and so this was the one that it really went off. It was like, you should have said please, and it's like a child.
They made it
like
fat.
A child edit of JD Vance. It's hysterical every time.
It's like a fat 10-year-old face on him, yeah.
And I think
still with the beard.
I think part of this stems from the fact that one person leaked pictures of him from his childhood where he was kind of chubby. And I think he also had some pictures in his memoir, but he was just a chubby kid, drank Mountain Dew, played video games. And I mean, every meme, it's just completely exploded. Everyone's hysterical. This is him purple. For the last time, Mr. Wonka, I did not try any experimental gum. And frankly, I find this entire line of questioning insulting. So I just cannot get over how funny this is. Every time I see it, I laugh. Some of them are so funny.
And the thing is,
Josh, no, I'm not done yet. So this just started blowing up, and JD Vance, a man of culture, responded himself, and X is down. Dang it. He responded, we'll see if it loads, with the one of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV and snapping, and it's his face superimposed onto it. He chose the perfect one to respond with, posted it to his thing. He's a man of culture. He gets it. Now, again, journalists, Petri dish treatment, they cannot understand why people would find this funny. I might need to go to the article because X is down, but a journalist from The Atlantic.
Shocking. Someone from The Atlantic doesn't get it.
Oh man,
this is a big problem though. Like, conservatives tend to understand the psychology of the left. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we tend to understand how they're thinking about things and what makes them tick. They are completely confused as to how we operate. They have no clue. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. Well, again, the safari treatment. What is with these conservatives?
Part of it is a humor that allows for like self-deprecation, which is conservative humor allows you to make fun of yourself sometimes and like laugh at your own ridiculousness at times. Whereas progressive humor, if they have any, does not allow that. You cannot laugh at the man. Like, it is deadly serious that Hillary Clinton should have won in 2016. That is, you don't joke about it. But on the right, you have all like JD Vance can laugh at himself and be like, this is silly, ha ha ha. But you really don't get that on the left.
Okay. For the audio listeners, the headline is, wait, who is posting these unflattering JD Vance memes? The online right is trolling one of its own. And I think the Twitter was like, don't they know it makes him look like a doofus? Yes.
Yes, that's the joke.
Emphatically, yes.
And it's funny.
JD Vance's name ID is going up through the roof. Like, how is he hating this? Are you kidding me?
I just think so. This is by Allie, I assume, is a woman. I'm not sure.
No, maybe it's not. It's a man.
Okay, could be an effeminate man. Every man shows that they love other men in their life, not in a homoerotic way, but in like in a normal way, by making fun of them. Like,
which is why I always make fun of you, you idiot.
Exactly. The ultimate sign of affection is ball busting. And it's just like breaking the minds of, as Erica was saying, liberals who just cannot fathom that you would make fun of, that you would laugh at yourself or someone that you agree with or whatever. It was just incredible.
Ali, just before Ali came to the Atlantic, any guesses who he wrote for? Any guesses?
Oh my gosh,
that would be Mother Jones. He wrote, which has no
communist rag.
I have spent time on Mother Jones when I'm covering abortion. I usually go there to like get the other side of the story, and there is no funniness on.
We need that woman from Georgetown. That's not funny. I love that meme.
It's the best. We're having more fun over here, I'd say.
We do have a lot more fun. Much happier.
And then I remember the left equivalent of a Photoshop job was actually trying to make us seriously believe that Kamala Harris worked at McDonald's by photoshopping a picture of someone else who worked at McDonald's, Kamala's face on it, and trying to make us all believe that she actually worked at McDonald's. She didn't work at McDonald's. That was fake.
Yeah, the
So
left's equivalent of this is like trying to get everyone to believe that Joe Biden was sharp as a tack for the last 6 months of his presidency. And that's like what they try to do with it. Whereas like the guys on the right are like, let's blow up JD Vance's face and make him violent. Like violent.
Let's
then
make him have
he
a
did that
family.
meme that when you talk about the Leonardo DiCaprio, where he's like, yes, pointing to the TV, and some liberals like, okay, that's it. It's over. He ruined it. This is boring now. Move on. And everyone's like, yeah, no, I don't think we are. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We don't care.
There's no signs of stopping. There's going to be a million more JD Vance memes before he becomes president in 2028. So this is going to be awesome. This is so awesome. I chose the perfect one. 138 million views on this. Crazy, man. Crazy. What a time to be alive. Hey, people could do the same treatment to Josh, by the way. This technology is available to the public.
If we have any, what are we at, Gen Zs in the chat? Can you guys help us out?
Oh my gosh, that'd be so funny. We need some. Maybe I'll work on it. Maybe I should create some for next episode.
I don't have enough of a personality to be memeable, though.
Totally.
Obviously.
Yeah. No one would do that to you at all.
No personality at all, Josh.
I need a cut up of you saying borrow money from China and then funny edits of you as random people.
Get me complaining about transgender comics in Peru.
I know I could do a sweet cut up of all your isms of you telling people to pound sand. I could cut that up into oblivion. All right. Fun episode, guys. We're going to be back Wednesday with another good episode.
We will.
If you want to support us, Champions Club, best way to do so. Email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org. Pray for us, St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, St. Fidelis. Pray for us.